I definitely agree that it's kind of hard to bridge that gap between early transitioners and later transitioners. You know, I was just telling the chat right before you got here about how recently I hung out with this baby trans, right? I was recording a video with her. It was awkward. I was the first trans person she's ever met. And like, we were just at different stages, you know? And like, I was trying to explain how like, I had all these emotions coming back up that were like reminiscent of my early transition. And like, I don't know. It's definitely a hurdle, I imagine, as like a server owner, bridging that gap on like a systemic level. You're
Yeah,
muted again.
definitely.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I have versus talk. I just need to remember to press it. I wrote too many stuff. We definitely won't be able to talk about all of this, but my first item on the list was leftism and rightism. So I
Yes.
wrote so much. I've been writing so much in the last few weeks that it's been a little bit hard for me to keep track of it. But I have like several different places. I've been like writing on Blue Sky, on Twitter, on just like a essay on a document, and obviously chatting in tons of discords and talking to people separately aside from that too. But some of these topics, like yeah, I might need to stop for a sec and we can evaluate together. I'll ask you some stuff and
Okay.
just try to lead us into the topic. So okay,
Sure.
like leftism and rightism. This is just to kind of bring into our attention the fact that okay, why is it even that we have like more or less two political wings, right? Like we can see obviously there's a lot of different political strains. You know, if you go on poll or you go on any like list of political ideologies, yeah, there's basically a million of different. If you're like a teenager in the West growing up and you have like no sense of meaning in your life and you kind of just get radicalized in something online, like you have a big selection of ideologies.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you'll find that whenever you clash with somebody who's, you know, maybe an adjacent ideology or maybe in a different domain that's related. So, I mean, you can maybe have issues around like climate justice or activism, but then that is maybe subsumed by larger class-based like left-right issues. So even if you take like one position in a different context, you would still be taking a position that's somehow related to that or also represents a split between two sides of something.
Mhm.
And you can kind of see that in every, I mean, even on the world stage, right? Throughout the 20th century, obviously we had two superpowers competing, left and right, sort of fell apart, but America tried to proclaim its, you know, kind of ultimate evanescence in being the only superpower in the kind of first century. But that's obviously not really how it's turning out, right? China is rising as the second rival to make it another dual kind of right-left dichotomy. If you look at every country in the world, pretty much, that has a parliamentary system, you know, they get broken down into a left and right. Even if you have a much more proportional representative type of system, like in the Netherlands or something, right? It's not a two-party system per se, but even with all of their parties, which I believe is like regularly getting like 6 to 10 or something, you know, significant shares of the vote,
Yeah.
they still split into left and right agreements over specific policies. Like they'll have maybe 3 parties that are kind of aligned. So they're like center left to moderate left to far left, and then, you know, the same thing on the right. So why is it that things always split into these two sides? You could say even on like a local level or like a regional level, your, you know, state elections are also gonna have like 2 candidates or 2 sides. There's that whole dynamic with like NIMBYs and YIMBYs, which is kind of political, right, in urban planning. But that's, I mean, directly connects to all of the other kind of like right-wing, more conservative Republican types of views, as opposed to the Dems and leftists and so on. So again, like 2 things, it always gets split like this. And I think to me, this is like the first sign that there is something very psychoanalytical going on. And the reason I say that is because really, like, psychoanalysis is somewhat of a broad topic, but at its most basic level, and this is kind of what I've inferred as a self-taught admirer of different, you know, perspectives, is that it concerns structures of thought and how we organize reality in our minds, essentially, which is where the political dichotomy essentially stands from,
Yeah.
is related to this kind of split